Sage Smith walked along West Main Street with her phone to her ear, headed toward the Amtrak station area where she expected to meet someone. People later told investigators they saw her alone, moving through the 500 block around the early evening rush, focused on the call. It was November 20th, 2012. She was 19, living in Charlottesville, and those few minutes on a public sidewalk became the last confirmed sighting of her. Sage, born Dashad Sage Smith, had been planning to meet a man named Eric McFadden that night. Police would later say the meeting point was near the station on West Main Street, close to businesses in that strip where people grabbed food and waited for trains. That plan, simple on its face, would become the center of a case that refused to resolve. Earlier that day, Sage was in her apartment getting ready to go out. She got ready at home and told the person she lived with that she was leaving to meet someone and would be back later. She left on foot and headed downtown. In the late afternoon and early evening, she exchanged messages with McFadden as they tried to line up the timing. Those communications, along with later phone records, would become some of the only hard markers investigators had for her final hours. By around 6:30 p.m., Sage was seen near the Amtrak station area on West Main Street, still on her phone. Charlottesville police would later pin that time and location as the last known point where she was observed, and they would come to believe she was there because she expected to meet McFadden. After that, no verified sighting placed her anywhere else. No confirmed camera image showed her leaving. No friend received a message explaining a change of plans. The line went silent. When Sage did not return home, the people who cared about her started calling. Hours passed with no answer. The next day, worry turned into action, and the disappearance was reported. Detectives began doing what they always do in the first phase of a missing person case: verifying timelines, collecting phone records, talking to anyone who might have seen her near West Main Street, and trying to locate the last person she had arranged to meet. In later public updates, the department would describe months of work with local, state, and federal partners, evidence reviewed, interviews conducted, witnesses tracked down. Yet none of it produced the one piece that mattered most in the first days: a reliable direction of travel after the last sighting. McFadden's name surfaced immediately. Police made brief contact with him in the days after Sage vanished, but according to Charlottesville police, he did not show up for a scheduled in-person interview. Investigators said he left Charlottesville, and after that, they could not locate him. Days after Sage disappeared, another report came in that added to the urgency. A woman told police she could not reach McFadden, who had been staying at her apartment while she was out of town. Detectives told her they were already trying to find him in connection with Sage's case. It was an early glimpse of the same pattern that would haunt the investigation for years: Sage missing, and the man she had planned to meet slipping out of reach. As the weeks became months, Sage's family and community tried to do what families always did when the official answers didn't come fast enough. They organized searches. They put up flyers. They pushed her name into the public space where cases lived or died: social media, local news, community conversations. The effort carried an extra weight because Sage was transgender, and people who loved her feared what often happened when transgender people disappeared: that tips could dry up, witnesses could dismiss what they saw, and the urgency could fade while the family was still living in the first day of grief. Investigators continued to work the case with what they could prove. They reviewed Sage's communications and learned she and McFadden had been in contact for weeks leading up to her disappearance. Reporting based on investigative records described messages that included sexual content and references to money, details that detectives treated as relevant to motive and leverage, but that did not, on their own, answer the central question of where Sage went after she reached West Main Street. With no body and no confirmed location after the last sighting, the case sat in that brutal middle ground where certainty was rare and hope became complicated. Still, years later, Charlottesville police announced a major shift. In November 2016, The department reclassified Sage Smith's disappearance as a homicide investigation. The announcement did not come with a public explanation of a single dramatic discovery, but it signaled that detectives believed she had been killed, even though her remains had not been found. The reclassification changed the stakes without changing the daily reality for her family. They woke up to the same empty space, the same unanswered phone, the same holiday seasons that arrived without her. The questions also sharpened around one fact the department repeated: the last known contact. McFadden was still the person detectives most wanted to speak with. In June 2019, the public learned something else unsettling. A missing person report was filed for McFadden by a family member, and news reports said he had not been seen or heard from by police, or even by members of his own family, for years. The man who had been identified as critical to understanding Sage's final night had also vanished from view. For the investigation, it meant the most obvious interview was still out of reach. Year after year, Charlottesville police issued anniversary updates, asking the public for help and emphasizing that the case remained active. They repeated the details they could anchor. 19 years old, last seen on November 20th, 2012, near the Amtrak station on West Main Street. The planned meeting, the disappearance, the homicide classification, the continued search for answers. In those updates, the department made a point of saying the case had not been shelved, that detectives were still pursuing developments and still believed someone out there had information that could break the silence. Then, in November 2025, 13 years after Sage was last seen, Charlottesville police announced they had located and interviewed McFadden in Los Angeles. The department said detectives had found him after years of searching, and local reporting noted he had been attempting to change his name when he was located. The update did not close the case. It did not reveal where Sage was, but it confirmed something the family had lived with for a long time. The person at the center of the final known plan had been out there, moving through the world, while Sage remained missing. Sage Smith's disappearance is still defined by a short walk on West Main Street and a meeting that should have been ordinary. A young woman left her home, headed toward a public place, and was seen alone on a phone call. The investigation grew into a homicide case without a body, driven by records, witness memories, and the stubborn insistence of a family that refused to let her name fade. The last confirmed moment stayed the same: Sage near the Amtrak station area, around 6:30 p.m., and then the abrupt break where the story should continue, but didn't. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.